"Don't open that box by yourself," the electrician said while rewiring my late wife's workshop. You know, there are moments in life that shatter your entire world, moments that make you wish you could rewind time and just not answer that phone call. I remember the exact moment my reality twisted, standing in a church parking lot, when a stranger told me to come home, alone. What he'd found hidden in my wife's workshop wasn't just a secret. It was a betrayal so profound. It exposed a darkness in the people closest to me that I still struggle to comprehend. Story narration: it was a Sunday morning, bright and quiet, the kind of stillness that usually brings peace. I was sitting in my car, outside St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church in Sudbury, just about to head inside, when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize, local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. God, I wish I had. "Is this Graham?" a voice said. A man, maybe late 40s, a bit out of breath. "It is," I replied. "My name is Terry Kowalski. I'm the electrician you hired to rewire the workshop. I'm sorry to call on a Sunday, sir, but I need you to come home right now. And please, don't bring anyone else. Come alone." I remember looking out at the snow-covered parking lot, everything pristine and ordinary. And then, just like that, it wasn't. "My name is Graham Whitfield. I'm 61, and I live in a house on the edge of Sudbury, a quiet place backing onto a line of spruce and birch. My wife, Diane, passed away 14 months before that phone call. She was 57. The doctors called it a sudden cardiac event, as if giving it a clinical name could somehow lessen the crushing weight of it. We'd been married 31 years. After she was gone, I couldn't bring myself to change much in the house. Her reading glasses still sat on her nightstand. Her gardening clogs waited by the back door. And her workshop, that little outbuilding her father had built in the 80s, which she'd completely transformed into her own sanctuary of sawdust and creativity, still held her tools on the pegboard, exactly where she'd left them. Diane was a woodworker, birdhouses, small furniture frames. She was precise, patient, with wood, and with everything else in her life. The electrical in that workshop was ancient, from her father's time. 2 months before, a breaker started tripping whenever Diane's old table saw powered on. It wasn't safe. A friend at the Legion recommended Terry, said he was honest. I'd hired him Thursday, gave him a key, told him to work at his own pace over the weekend. That Sunday, I dressed for church, driven the 12 minutes into town, before Terry's call pulled me back. My brother-in-law, Patrick, was in the car, about to come inside with me. I told him something came up at the house. He asked if everything was all right. I said, yeah, probably nothing. Just the electrician. He offered to come with me. I told him not to bother. I didn't fully grasp why Terry had insisted I come alone, but something in his voice, a quiet urgency, a measured care, told me to listen. When I pulled into my driveway 20 minutes later, Terry was standing outside the workshop, hands in his jacket pockets. Broad-shouldered, gray beard, careful eyes. He just nodded when I got out of the car. He waited until I walked all the way over before he spoke. I found something, he said, his voice low. Inside the wall cavity on the north side, behind the insulation. I want to show you before I say anything else. He led me inside. The workshop smelled of sawdust and cold, and the faint chemical tang of wire insulation. Terry had pulled back a section of drywall, exposing the old knob and tube wiring he was replacing. But there, nestled beside the wiring, as if placed deliberately and carefully, was a metal lockbox. A gray hardware store box with a combination dial. It wasn't loose, Terry said. It was set on a bracket someone had screwed into the stud. It was put there on purpose. I stood there in the cold, just looking at it. I haven't touched it, Terry added. I thought you should see it the way I found it. Before I even consciously thought about it, I knew the combination. My wife used the same 4-digit sequence for everything. Our oldest grandson's birthday. I crouched down, turned the dial, and the latch clicked open. Inside, there was a USB drive. A small notebook, brown cardboard cover, the kind she used to keep in her apron pocket. And beneath those, a sealed envelope. With my name, in her unmistakable handwriting. I sank onto the cold concrete floor of that workshop. And I didn't move for a very long time. I didn't open the envelope that morning. I thanked Terry, paid him for the weekend, and asked him to finish up next week. He asked if I was all right. I told him, honestly, I didn't know yet. He just nodded, the way men from the north nod when they understand some things don't have clean answers. He left without another word. I respected him for that. I brought the lockbox inside and set it on the kitchen table. I made coffee. I sat across from it, staring, as if it might speak. Diane had hidden that box before she died. She had screwed a bracket into the wall herself, placed it there, locked it, sealed the wall over it. She had wanted it found, eventually. Otherwise, why leave anything? But she hadn't wanted it found casually. My wife was a careful woman. She didn't do things without reasons. I opened the notebook first. Diane's handwriting was small, precise, the letters close together. She'd been keeping notes, dated entries, going back almost 2 years before she passed. The first pages were observational. Small things. A discrepancy in our joint investment account. An $8,000 withdrawal she hadn't made, and I hadn't either. Described as transfer authorized. She'd circled authorized and drawn a question mark. She'd brought it to our financial advisor, Clifton Ralph. He'd managed our retirement accounts for 11 years. According to the notebook, Clifton had told her it was a routine portfolio rebalancing fee, pre-authorized. He showed me a page in the original document, she wrote. I don't remember signing anything like that. We'll check my copy. The next entry, 2 weeks later, my copy of the contract doesn't have that clause. The page numbers skip. Pages 7 and 8 are missing. Clifton's version has a page 7A. I had to put the notebook down. I went to the filing cabinet in the spare bedroom, pulled out our copy of the investment contract. Found it in less than 2 minutes. We were organized people, Diane and I. She was right. Our copy went from page 6 to page 9. The numbering skipped. I had never noticed. I had signed that contract without noticing. Diane had noticed. 14 months before she died, she had started keeping records. I went back to the notebook. Over the following months, Diane had tracked 7 more transfers, ranging from $4,000 to $22,000. All described in similar, vague language. All, she came to believe, unauthorized. The total came to just under $90,000. But that wasn't the part that stopped my breathing. Midway through the notebook, the entries changed. Diane began to feel unwell. Fatigue she couldn't explain, heart palpitations, a shortness of breath that came and went without obvious cause. She went to her doctor, Dr. Sandhu, who ran tests and told her heart showed early signs of arrhythmia, common in women her age, manageable with medication. She started the prescription, but the symptoms didn't improve. They got worse. And then, a line in the margin, in handwriting slightly less controlled, as if written quickly, with a surge of emotion. The supplements. When did I start taking them? Check the date. I remembered the supplements. About 18 months before she died, someone had given Diane a gift basket. One of those elaborate wellness baskets, wrapped in cellophane, with teas and candles and a collection of herbal capsules. Magnesium, she'd told me. Good for sleep and heart health. She'd started taking them religiously. I couldn't immediately remember who had given her that basket. The notebook told me 3 entries later, in careful handwriting, the basket was from Clifton. He gave it to me at our November meeting. Said his wife swore by the brand. I've been taking these capsules for 16 months. And then, the line that has not left my mind since. I don't think I should take them anymore, but I need to be sure first. I need to save one and have it tested. If I'm wrong, I don't want to destroy someone's life over paranoia. If I'm right, I need evidence. My wife, alone, quietly, without telling me, had been building a case. I turned to the last page. The final entry was dated 11 days before she died. It read, I have been too slow. I trusted the process too much. I should have gone to the police 6 months ago. Graham will find this. He will know what to do. I love him. I'm sorry I didn't tell him sooner. I was trying to protect him from the possibility that I might be wrong. I wasn't wrong. Dent. I sat at my kitchen table for a long, long time after reading that. The coffee went cold. The light through the window shifted from morning white to the flat gray of a Sudbury afternoon in February. Then I picked up the USB drive. I don't own a laptop anymore. I'd given mine to my daughter when I retired. So I drove to Renata's house. Renata is 34, lives 20 minutes away with her husband and my 2 grandkids. I told her I needed to borrow her computer for a few hours, that it was related to her mother's estate. She looked at me with that careful worry she'd carried since Diane died. Everything okay, Dad? I told her the truth. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. The USB drive contained 2 things: a folder of scanned documents, copies of bank statements, the investment contract, a printed email exchange between Diane and Clifton Ralph, and a single audio file, 47 minutes long, recorded on her phone. It was Diane's voice. She was sitting across from Clifton Ralph in what I recognized, from the ambient sounds, as his office on Elm Street downtown. She had recorded the entire conversation without his knowledge. This was 4 months before she died. I want to be precise about what was on that recording, because precision matters here. Clifton did not confess outright. He was too careful for that. But when Diane raised the missing contract pages, when she laid out the transfer history, when she asked him directly whether the withdrawals had been properly authorized, his responses were not those of an innocent man. He deflected. He condescended. He told her she was misremembering the onboarding process. He told her that managing money was complex and perhaps she should let him explain it to her husband. He suggested, twice, that stress and health issues could sometimes affect a person's clarity of recollection. He was gaslighting her. And then, near the end, Diane's voice, clear and steady. Clifton, I've had one of the capsules from that wellness basket tested. I want you to know that. There was a silence of about 4 seconds on the recording. A chilling, agonizing silence. Then Clifton said, I think you should be careful about making accusations you can't support. Diane replied, I'm not making an accusation. I'm telling you what I've done. Clifton's voice, now laced with false concern. You should talk to your doctor about your stress levels, Diane. Seriously, I'm concerned about you. And then the recording ended. For seconds of silence. That was his response to being told the capsules had been tested. Not confusion, not offense, not the natural outrage of someone who had simply given a friend a wellness gift with no ulterior motive. For seconds of calculating silence, and then a pivot to undermining her credibility. I drove home from Renata's house slowly, carefully, the way you drive when your mind is somewhere else entirely. When I got back, I opened the sealed envelope. It was 2 pages, handwritten. I won't reproduce all of it here, because some of it is private. The kind of things a woman says to her husband of 31 years when she believes she may be running out of time. But the relevant portion read, I don't have proof that the capsules hurt me. The woman at the testing lab said the results were inconclusive, but notable. She found trace amounts of something she couldn't fully identify without more sophisticated analysis. I was going to take the results to a toxicologist, but I ran out of time and energy. The capsules are in the blue tin in the bottom drawer of my craft desk. The one that locks. The key is on my keyring. The small brass one you always ask me about. Please have them properly tested. Please go to the police with everything in this box. And please, don't go to Clifton alone. Don't confront him alone. He is not who he thought he was. I found the blue tin exactly where she said it would be. I did not go to Clifton alone. I want to be clear about that because I had the impulse. That sudden, burning impulse that comes to men my age who have lost someone to walk into his office on a Tuesday morning and lay all of it on his desk and watch his face. I am glad I didn't. Diane had told me not to, and she had been right about everything else. Instead, I called a lawyer, a woman named Margaret O'Day, whom I'd met through the church. She worked in civil litigation. I told her everything over the phone, all of it, start to finish. She was quiet through most of it. When I finished, she said, Graham, I need you to bring me everything in that box. Don't make copies. Don't contact Clifton. Don't tell anyone except your immediate family. I asked her whether she thought Diane had been deliberately harmed. She paused. I think we need to let the proper people answer that question. But what you've described, if it's accurate, is serious. Seriously serious. I brought her everything the next morning. Margaret moved quickly. Within 10 days, she had connected with Detective Constable Irene Blaze at the Greater Sudbury Police Service, who specialized in financial crimes. DC Blaze reviewed the documents, listened to the recording, and arranged for the contents of the blue tin to be sent to a forensic toxicology lab in Toronto. The results came back 6 weeks later. The capsules contained a substance called digitalis glycoside, a compound derived from the foxglove plant, used in small, controlled doses in cardiac medication, but toxic in larger or sustained amounts. Prolonged ingestion can cause arrhythmia, fatigue, heart irregularities in someone with no pre-existing heart condition. And Diane had had no pre-existing heart condition before she started taking those capsules. Her medical records confirmed this. Over months, it can cause the heart to behave in ways that, to a general practitioner running a standard ECG, look like naturally developing cardiac disease. She had been poisoned, slowly, over 16 months, without knowing it. And when she had started to suspect, she had been too sick, too careful, and too alone in her suspicion to stop it in time. Clifton Ralph was arrested on a Wednesday morning in April. The charges included fraud, theft over $5,000, and after a longer investigation that took 8 more months, criminal negligence causing death. The Crown prosecutor told Margaret that the case was not simple, and the last charge would be difficult to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, given the indirect nature of the poisoning. I understood that. I also understood that the process of justice is not always the same as the experience of justice, and that these two things can coexist without either one canceling the other out. What the investigation also revealed, and this is the part one have had the hardest time with, was that Clifton had not been alone. My wife's younger brother, a man named Patrick, had been in financial trouble for 3 years before Diane died. Gambling debts. The kind that don't go away on their own. The investigation turned up a series of cash deposits into Patrick's account, made over the same 16-month period during which Diane had been getting sick. Small amounts, $2,000 here, $1,500 there. They traced back, through a series of transfers, to an account linked to Clifton's wife. Patrick had told Clifton about our investment accounts. He had told him roughly how much was in them, and that Diane was the one who paid close attention to the finances. He had been, the detective said carefully, a facilitator. Whether he had known exactly what Clifton intended to do, whether he had understood where this was going, that was harder to prove. He said he had known. He said he had thought Clifton was simply going to redirect some funds that Diane might not notice, and that he, Patrick, had needed the money and had told himself it was a loan he'd repay and had not let himself think too hard about what he was really doing. I have known Patrick for 31 years. He held one of Diane's hands at the hospital. He spoke at her funeral. He is the reason I understand now why my wife hadn't told me. She had suspected him. She had written it in the notebook, a single careful line near the end. I think Patrick told someone about our accounts. I can't prove it yet, and I can't tell Graham. He and Patrick are close. It would destroy him before I know for certain. She had been protecting me, even while she was dying. Patrick was charged as an accessory after the fact. He pleaded guilty to a reduced charge in exchange for his cooperation with the prosecution against Clifton. I haven't spoken to him since. I don't know if I ever will. I don't say that with heat. I've had enough time now that the heat has mostly gone. I say it because I genuinely don't know how to hold the person who helped set in motion the death of the woman I loved, and I have stopped trying to force an answer I'm not ready for. Clifton Ralph was convicted on the fraud charges. The criminal negligence charge was ultimately stayed by the Crown, not because of a lack of evidence, but because of a procedural issue with the toxicology chain of custody that Margaret explained to me at length and that I understood in theory but could not absorb emotionally. He served 14 months. The civil suit, which Margaret pursued separately, resulted in a settlement that returned most of the stolen money, plus significant additional damages. I donated a portion of it to the cardiology unit at Health Sciences North. It seemed right. I still live in the house on the edge of Sudbury. Terry Kowalski finished rewiring the workshop, and I have started using it. Slowly. Tentatively. The way you start using a space that belonged to someone else, someone you loved, and you're trying to decide whether using it is a way of honoring them or a way of letting them go. I have been making a birdhouse. It is not a good birdhouse, but Diane would have helped me make a better one. And somewhere in the act of making a bad one, I feel her presence more clearly than I do in a lot of other places. The envelope she left me, the 2 handwritten pages. I've read them many times now. There is a line near the end that I come back to most often. She wrote, "You always trusted people more easily than I did. I love that about you. Don't stop trusting people. Just be willing to look carefully at the ones who are very close." I have thought about that a great deal. About the difference between suspicion and discernment. About how loving someone, truly loving them, does not mean refusing to see what they're doing. About how the people most capable of hurting us are almost always the ones we have decided in advance that we trust completely. Diane had 31 years of evidence that I was a good man. She also had, in those final months, the hard-won clarity to see that someone close to us was not. She held both of those things at the same time, with grief and love, and without bitterness. And she documented everything carefully, and hid it in a wall, and hoped that one day I would find it. She was right to trust that I would. If there is anything I would want someone to take from this, from the whole long, terrible arc of it, it is something that I believe Diane understood better than most people I have known. That love is not the same as blind trust. That caring for someone means staying clear-eyed about the people around them. That when something feels wrong, the most loving thing you can do is not to protect the people you care about from that feeling, but to document it and take it seriously and refuse to let it be dismissed. She did all of that. She did it alone, and sick and frightened. And she did it because she loved me enough to want me to know the truth, even after she was gone. I think about her every day. I think about that little notebook in the workshop wall. I think about a woman with sawdust on her apron and reading glasses pushed up onto her forehead, sitting at her craft desk late at night, writing careful notes about things she was afraid to say out loud. Making sure the evidence was there. Making sure I would find it. She was the most precise person I have ever known. She was also the bravest. Call to action, this whole experience, it makes you question everything. I keep thinking, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to face such a profound betrayal from someone you loved and trusted? Tell me what you think, I really want to know.